Welcome to Seeking Disability, the show that informs you how to seek disability. I'm Tom Duncan.
And I'm Dana Duncan.
So, Dad, how about we start out this episode a little bit by introducing ourselves? You're the much more distinguished personality on this particular episode, and I am just kind of starting this disability law journey. But how did you get into disability?
I've been doing Social Security disability work for about 35 years. I started because we had a shortage of representatives in my area, and I had an interest in it because my mother was disabled, and I remember the hardship she went through getting on disability, and so I just kind of made it a point that I enjoyed the area of law and decided I was going to do what I could to help others so they didn't get denied like my mother did initially.
So, as far as my journey, I would say that it's been mostly the family business for as long as I can remember, probably about at least 20 years. I'm about to be 34, and probably since at least I was 12, somebody other than just you has been in the family firm department, whatever else. Even before we had Duncan disability law, there was still disability law being done. And I personally started in your office closing files in the summer of 2006. So I have been doing off and on for about 18 years, either in summer breaks or while I was in school, and then full time for a while, and then part time for a little bit. And now I'm back full time with the firm. Just took my EDP&A exam, which is a exam that allows you to do Social Security representation without actually having a full law degree. We, at least personally ourselves, have a couple of EDP&As here, believe in that program that you don't necessarily need to be a lawyer, since there are good representatives that are not full-fledged lawyers.
I did general practice for about the first 17 years of my career, and I've limited it to Social Security and Wisconsin workers' compensation law the last 18. So the first 17, I had, I think, over 150 jury trials. So unlike a lot of representatives who do not always have an opportunity to hone their cross-examination skills, I kind of think it's an advantage that I have a lot of trial experience in dealing with cross-examining experts.
And for what I may lack in expertise of the actual law portion of things, I will say that I have worked in doing the mail, clerical work, closing files, opening files, editing the federal appeals department. I think for the most part, I helped really grow that part out of our particular firm. And it's now kind of a main staple of what we do. That's a little bit unique comparative to normal Social Security firms. But I've worked in just about every capacity that our firm currently has. And now, potentially going to law school here in the fall, I'll add that on top of it. But we're obviously people that are very into the weeds, so to say, on Social Security disability. So I will start this way. What is disability?
Well, disability is really a work program. You qualify by being unable to perform work.
So let me just parse that out.
Sure.
Then it's not a work program, but it's a lack of work program.
Yeah, that would pretty much be it. A lot of people have medical conditions. We get that quite often where people will call and say, well, I should be on disability. I have depression. Okay. There are millions of people in the United States that suffer from depression and are treated. And the depression is well regulated and it doesn't impact their ability to sustain competitive employment. Even though you have a disability, it does not qualify you for Social Security disability payments in and of itself. There has to be a component where the condition or multiple conditions prevent you from being able to work.
The way I normally explain it to most of our clients when I have appointments with them is I think the public perception is often that disability is just having a severe impairment. It's not. The determination of a disability or a disability claim with Social Security is whether you can maintain competitive employment full time. And there are a lot of our clients that maybe could do some part time work, but they can't maintain full time employment. So, a big question that I often get asked by claimants as they call our office for the first time: do they qualify? Let's just start with that. What programs are available for people to even qualify for?
Well, the biggest one is disability insurance benefits. Well, that's based upon what you pay into the system. Everybody is familiar with their tax returns or their W 2s or their pay stubs. And they'll see a thing called FICA, FICA, Federal Insurance Corporation of America. That's the trust fund. You pay into the trust fund and you pay in for retirement benefits, survivors benefits, benefits that are paid out to children or other dependents if you were to pass away, and disability. So if you pay in and you have enough qualifications to receive benefits, then you are eligible for that program. It gets a little tricky, but I at some point will explain how that works. But the biggest thing to remember is it's kind of like any insurance program. You pay into the system, you get insurance. If you stop paying, they cancel the policy. And so there's a period that it can lapse. In the event you can't qualify for disability insurance benefits, the other big program is supplemental security income. That's designed to either cover people who have paid in so little into the system under disability insurance benefits that they don't meet the poverty level, for people who don't qualify for that. And that's the big one that covers minor children. So if you apply for your minor child, it's needs based, and you apply for it the same way, the same process is doing as disability insurance benefits. It's just the payments are less and they're designed specifically to help people to keep at or above the poverty level.
So, just to recap a little bit here, if you've been paying into the system by working, you more than likely have something called insured status, is that you have coverage for disability through Social Security, whether you knew it or not. And SSI is a needs based program that is somewhat determined by how many assets you have or what your earnings are. Now, really, the two primary things that you're going to need to know if you qualify are: one, are you working and earning too much? And two, do you have a severe impairment?
More or less. I mean, there are, again, nuances, but, to make it as simple as possible for people to grasp at this stage, that's what we're talking about.
Now, obviously, there are a few other very technical programs. There's the widowers benefits or widows benefits program. There's the survivor benefits program. There's child disability, which is primarily just SSI, but designed more for children with obviously limitations and other things that are going on with them that need a little bit extra funding. Their families are a little bit poorer and need extra help to take care of them or to get them additional help to develop. But those are more technical programs that I would talk to a representative probably about whether you're eligible for any of those. What exactly is the process for disability? Obviously, I think a lot of people know that you have to apply for it, probably know that you have to apply for it with Social Security, but past that initial application where you submit something, what exactly do claimants go through?
Each state has a field office, and a representative of that field office is responsible for making the initial decision on the application. That field office person will send the file to an agency that's run by the state. Each state has a contract from Social Security to provide services. That they have medical personnel, vocational personnel, and such who have the case evaluated for medical reasons or medical conditions and determining whether somebody may or may not be disabled. If they find that it does not meet the qualifications or the requirements, then it's denied. You have a right in, I think of the 50 states and 7 territories. I think 38 or so of them still have the next step, which is reconsideration. Some states, they did away with reconsideration. But reconsideration is the same thing. We have the state agency, medical and vocational or people making determinations, but the decision is made at reconsideration by some bureaucrat within the state agency.
Okay, so we have initial application, we have reconsideration, and we would encourage people to appeal after each of these processes, correct?
Correct. There's a lot of cases that are denied, and sometimes it's a matter of you have to have the right person look at it. Sometimes it's a matter of getting the right evidence.
But I would say overwhelmingly, the majority of cases, if they're appealed far enough, end up in front of an administrative law judge at a hearing.
Correct. And that's really where the nuts and bolts of this goes, because it gives you an opportunity to present your case, to present testimony, to add to the record, to do what's necessary to try to convince the administrative law judge, who's wholly independent of any and makes an independent decision separate from any previous denial.
Now, I want to stress here that even though technically, from a legal standpoint, the hearing decision is the final decision of the commissioner or of Social Security as to whether you're disabled or not, that is not the end of a claim.
Correct. Yes, you have a right to have that administrative decision reviewed. And that administrative review decision goes to what's called the Appeals Council.
And even past that, and this is where we're a little bit more unique, considering we had mentioned federal appeals. You can have a federal district court review that particular opinion if it's denied at that level. But in order to do those types of review, you obviously need a representative. Do people need a representative?
Let's put it this way. You don't need a dentist to do a root canal, and you don't need a surgeon to take out your appendix. I just don't think you are capable of doing either of those on your own.
Well, at least while continuing to live.
Well, and while hiring a representative is not life and death or potential painful, nevertheless, a quality representative can make all the difference in the world, because they're going to see all the nuances of your case, the little things that are make and break, and they can actually help control the evidence as to what Social Security does or does not do. The biggest problem I think a lot of people have, especially those who want to go on their own, is that they don't know what they don't know. So they don't know if there's certain things that should be in the file that aren't. They also may say things that can hurt their case, even though it's not being dishonest or whatever. It still would potentially affect their case. So I would suggest you find not only a representative, but one who's well versed in Social Security. Not all representatives who claim to be Social Security representatives are Social Security representatives.
Yeah, you can definitely practice Social Security even as a general attorney if you have a law license, but that does not mean that you're well versed in the issues. But one other thing that I'll bring up, and this is the thing that often scares most people when they're coming into our firm, they don't know that they need a representative. They don't know how to get a representative. And here's the bigger issue to most of them: how much does a representative actually cost? I think to most people, they think, I've got to have a $5,000 retainer and I have no money. How the hell am I going to afford a representative or an attorney? Now, here's where the big difference comes in. We work on a contingent fee basis. The contingency being that you have to be awarded benefits first before we can even charge a fee. That is how Social Security is regulated by Social Security.
And it's only for a back wage with a cap. So if you get $100,000 in back pay, the most I can get as the attorney would be $9,200, and it has to still be approved by the administrative law judge or some representative of Social Security if it's approved at application or reconsideration. And unlike personal injury, where your attorney charges a contingency, he gets paid a percentage of all of your back pay. He also gets future damages, which means future wages and all of that. We don't. We only get the back pay. So if you happen to be 50 years old and your retirement age is 66 and your monthly benefit is $2,000, that's $24,000 a year for 16 years that you'll be getting, and your representative does not see one dime of that.
Yes, we can only charge based on what the amount of money you should have been receiving while you were disabled was. Because just to explain maybe back pay or back wage, you establish that there's a date at which you say your disability started. And if Social Security agrees with you and your representative, hopefully, you can be awarded an amount of money from the date that supposedly started up through the date of that decision. So there's potential for 6 months to 3 years sometimes of
Yes.
potential money you should have been receiving. I mean, if we're talking the $2,000 that you mentioned there in the example, that's 36 months times $2,000. That's $72,000 by my estimation.
Yes.
And out of that, a representative can charge up to either 25% or the capped figure. Even so, comparative to what you could be losing out by not applying, not having a representative on the first go round, and the thousands of dollars you could potentially receive, it is a better service to you to have a representative to start with than to try and go it alone. Well, I think there's a lot more information to share. We've only scratched the surface. Any final thoughts you want to leave everybody with before we close up here?
I would encourage you. Social Security does make it easier to apply and win once you're 50, and again, makes it easier at 55. If you fall in that range and you can't work, and because your medical conditions are such that you're missing too much work, it's too painful, whatever, I would encourage you to apply. That's what the system is for. Whether it's my office or multiple other different representatives, find a competent one to help you in this process. You got enough to worry about for your health and getting to your medical appointments and sustaining yourself waiting for this process. Don't waste time and effort trying to fill out all the paperwork by yourself. Get a representative to help you. Our office is designed to help you with the process. We make it easy for you.
Well, that looks like a good place to stop for this episode. If you have any more questions about disability, you can visit our website, duncandisability.com, or call 1-888-458-2406 to talk to the Duncan Disability staff. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Seeking Disability is a production of Ronnie Duncan Studios. This show is written by Dana and Thomas Duncan. It is mixed, edited, and recorded by Thomas Duncan. Our music is thanks to Purple Planet Music. Our technical provider is Riverside FM, and our distributor is Captivate FM.